Planning and Zoning meeting to order. Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Jay Swin. Here. Jeanette Lemmy Holman.
Here.
Louis Box. Here. Will Schmidt. Dave Clark.
Here.
Mark Denny.
Here.
Chris Ramos.
Here.
John Matthews.
Here.
And I'm present, Steve Rosenthal. Have all 9 members present. Do I have a motion on the minutes from last month?
So move.
Louis makes a
Second.
motion and Wolf seconded. He was first. A motion on the floor with a second to approve the minutes from last month's meeting as read, as printed. Any discussion? None. Have roll call vote. Jay Swim.
Yes.
Jeanette Lemmy Holman.
Yes.
Louis Box.
Yes.
Will Schmidt.
Yes.
Dave Clark.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Chris Ramos.
Abstain.
John Matthews.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8 to 1 abstain. Secretary's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I don't have a report today.
Okay. We have the agenda, how many items we have on it. Nothing, we have nothing on the consent agenda, and we have 1, 2,
6.
4, 5, 6 cases to hear today. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as printed for the evening meeting.
I have a second. Motion on the floor with the second to approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? None. A roll call vote. Jay Swim.
Yes.
Jeanette Lamby Holman.
Yes.
Louis Box.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Dave Clark.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Chris Ramos.
Yes.
John Matthews.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. Any decorations? I actually will be abstaining on case number D tonight, and Mark, you'll be taken out over, I guess. When we get there. Anybody else have any decorations? Okay, start off with case number DEV 19-034, consideration of exception to Article 29, accessory building unit on a tract of land in the southeast quarter of Section 33, Township 10 South, Range 22 east of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, also known as 16366 Parallel Road. Request submitted by Roger and Donna McRoy. Staff?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV-19-034. This is a request for an exception from the rule of having to have 5 acres in order to have an accessory dwelling unit. Mr. and Mrs. McCrory live at near 163rd and Parallel. They have just over 4 acres of land. Our zoning and subdivision regulations require that to have an accessory dwelling unit, you must have 5 acres, and this is due in part to the requirement to have 2.5 acres for a septic system and having enough space to have a backup system in case something were to fail. The McCrorys have a unique situation. They need their son to be able to move onto the property to help care for their father. Like I said, they have just over 4 acres. The reason we brought this to you as an exception as opposed to a variance is a variance, as you all know, is a permanent, so it's a permanent binding agreement with the land for forever. This exception allows us to grant them an exception to this regulation for the time that they need it. When they no longer need the use, they will be able to return it. They'll remove the accessory dwelling unit. One of the requirements that we're asking them is to have an engineered septic system put in for the accessory dwelling unit so that we know that they're not going to have any issues with septic system on a lot that's not large enough or anything at all like that. Staff is supportive of this request. The things that we need to look for in an exception are that it is a substantial, that we're doing a substantial justice to the property owner, and that we're not impacting negatively surrounding property owners. Staff believes that we are doing a justice to the property owner and we are not negatively impacting surrounding property owners. Mr. and Mrs. McCrory are here and will answer any questions that you may have. And like I said, we recommend approval of this exception.
Any other comments from staff?
I have a couple of questions. Who follows up on the issue of removing the second residence 5, 10, 20, whenever, it's available?
So the way that we deal with that is they will have to pay a compliance deposit, which is a substantial amount of money. It's nearly $4,000. They'll also sign an affidavit saying that once they no longer need it, they'll contact us. We will go out, inspect it, and as long as it's been returned back the way that it should be, they will get their compliance deposit back. So that's how we,
Are there any guidelines or qualifications for the second residence? What I'm saying is, would we allow a mobile home to be the second residence, or do we have to have, I'm going to say, a foundation secured
Sure.
type building?
so if it were to be a manufactured home, it would be subject to Article 26 of the zoning and subdivision regulations that require that it be on a permanent foundation,
Yeah.
and it'd be a minimum of, I think, 26 feet wide, and it would have to be a minimum of 600 square feet and such. So we do have regulations that would apply to a manufactured home, yes.
Any other questions? Will the applicant please come forward? State your name and address, please.
Parallel Road. And my husband was diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's. I need help. And I don't want to take him away from his home that he has lived in for 34 years. And if I could get my son and his family, what we would like to do is put in a barn and have a living quarters in the barn. That way, they're gonna be on property, they'll have their separation, will still be in our home. And,
You understand all the requirements that we
Yes, sir.
talked about? Okay. Do you
Yes.
have any questions on any of them or anything?
no,
Okay. All right. Any questions of the applicant? Anybody? Thank you so much. Is there any additional information to be presented?
Nothing at this time, Chairman.
Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve exception number case DEV-19-034 with staff recommendations.
Second. I have a question.
Well, we'll be there. We have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19-034, exceptions to Article 26, accessory dwelling unit. Staff recommendations. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have an additional question. The applicant mentioned something about converting a barn over to a second residence, and I had the impression from what you gave to us this evening that it would have to be, I'm going to say, a brand-new structure that was built on a foundation, et cetera.
So we have regulations. It has to be 600 square feet or minimum of 600 square feet. It has to have its own water closet. It has to be made of materials that are substantial for development. Throughout the county, we have, barn homes throughout the county that,
Okay.
again, they have to meet the requirements. But yes, that is a possibility.
Thank you.
Anything, any further discussion? I have roll call vote. Jay Swin,
Yes.
Jeanette Lanley Holman,
Yes.
Louis Box,
Yes.
Will Smith, David Clark,
Yes.
Mark Denny,
Yes.
Chris Ramos,
Yes.
John Matthews.
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries 9-0. This, as far as it goes, doesn't go to the commissioners, correct? You're approved. Okay, case number DEV 19-037, consideration application to rezone a parcel of land from RR 2.5 zoning district to a planned unit development on a tract of land in the northeast quarter of section 25 township. Can't be zero. Range 22 and lot 3 of Janice Voigt subdivision east of the 6 p.m. Leavenworth County, also known as 14131 Mitchell Court, submitted by Carrie W. Eldridge. Requires a public hearing. Staff report.
Yes, Commissioner, this is case number DEV-19-037. Due to the nature of this request, I'm also going to present the preliminary and final plat that go along with it together. They will need to be approved or denied separately, and there will need to be a public hearing on the rezoning, but just for the sake of clarity, I will present them together. A little background on the history. About 20 or 25 years ago, there were a couple of building permits that were permitted for single-family residential homes. They appear from our records that they were both permitted on parcel 33.05, the larger parcel. I believe that one of them should have been on 33.08 and the other one on 33.05. And then a couple of years later, there were accessory permits that were issued for the barns. The barns were then at some point turned into apartments. They are not in conformance with Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations, and they were not permitted as apartments. About a year or so ago, Mr. Eldridge approached our office about a solution to his dilemma of having a number of non-compliant homes on these two parcels. He also, 33.05 did not have any road frontage, so that was a non-compliant parcel through and through, not just the structures that were on it, but the parcel itself. Like I said in my staff report, in 2000, Janice Voigt subdivision was approved, which is what created 33.08 as a subdivision. You can see, I have it pulled up, that lot line essentially bisects one of these units. I'm not entirely certain how that came to be, but alas, it did. So we worked with Mr. Eldridge on trying to come up with a solution, which is why we have brought forth the rezoning from rural residential 2.5, which, as I said, multifamily units, which is effectively what these are not allowed, to a planned unit development. In doing so, one of the things that we talked about is that each unit would need to be on its own parcel of land, which is what brings us to the layout of the plat. You can see that a couple of those lots are less than the 2.5 acre zoning which would typically be required. However, again, if this is rezoned to a planned unit development, we are able to create some new rules that apply specifically to this development. One of the other things that you'll notice is Mr. Eldridge is proposing to extend Mitchell Court about 550 feet or so to the west. That's going to be a private road. It is not going to be maintained by the county. He will need to work on coming up with a maintenance agreement that will need to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners. Not just the maintenance in the immediate future, but down the line as well. So this is, with being able to keep all of the parcels and their septic systems on their own lots, this is what his surveyor and he were able to come up with. They came back and forth with a number of different potential options. None of those options looked like what we would normally want to see. However, this is a very unique situation. We are supportive of the rezoning request. We're supportive of the rezoning request for a couple of reasons. First, it's already there. We are not going to go in and tear them down. It's already there. Mr. Eldridge inherited these parcels as they are. Secondarily, the property directly to the east is zoned as commercial. There's also commercial zoning to the south, and the future land use plan calls for this entire area to be commercial. It's not that far-fetched for there to be multifamily living near a commercial development. We do have some restrictions, obviously, that we want to place upon this. One of those restrictions is that there will be no more additions of any sorts of barn apartments or any additional living units whatsoever. We have some concerns regarding the septic systems. A couple of those lots are very small. The septic systems are, we've been told that they are up to code and they are fulfilling the purpose that they should be fulfilling. However, one of our conditions is that if they need substantial repair, that they have to be engineered systems on those lots that are very small, and then on the lot that is also serving the additional homes. One of the concerns that the Water District had is that he said there's only 1 meter out there. There should be an individual meter for each unit, that's my understanding, so Mr. Eldridge will need to work with Consolidated One on coming up with a solution to that. The rezoning is contingent upon the plat being approved, and the plat being approved is contingent upon the rezoning being approved, which is why we're presenting these two cases together. Like I said, they will need to be approved separately or denied separately. Mr. Eldridge and his agent are here and will answer any questions that you may have, as will we.
Where does it say it's contingent on the plat being approved? I'm looking at I might be just missing it.
So under the rezoning, approval of the submitted final plat is required, and then under the preliminary, the condition is approval of the plat is subject to approval of the rezoning request.
It's on this one.
Okay, but it's not on on the one we're discussing first, the plan unit development?
Yeah, so the first condition for the rezoning is approval of the submitted final plat is required.
Oh, okay, there we go, yeah, I see it now. I'm sorry, I just went right over that. Okay. Any legal issues here?
Where do I start? I apologize for not having I have not received this report, but my initial impressions would be you would be granting exceptions to the sanitary sewer code, the issue of road frontage, lot size. As far as conformance with the comprehensive plan, I would defer if that issue's been considered by staff.
Yeah, that's why they're doing the PUD.
Okay. And those things, those matters can be addressed under a planned unit development. I would only urge that this be given careful consideration.
If it's denied, what's the option?
Well, that's one of the things I think your staff has struggled with is a denial would be, the net effect would be those dwellings would have to be abandoned. And that works a hardship, obviously, on the individuals who currently reside in those properties, as well as the owner. It's my understanding the owner did inherit this property. Mr. Eldridge inherited this property, and I think the fact that he has reached out to staff indicates that there is a good faith attempt to remedy the issue or issues, and apparently about the only way to do it is through the PUD.
We tried for, like I said, he came to us, it's been over a year at this point, and I think we tried every which way to come up with a solution that did not necessarily require a rezoning, but it just
Are
wasn't.
they all single-family dwellings?
No, the barns have been converted to apartments, and Mr. Eldridge can speak more to this, but I believe each barn has 3 apartment units in it.
So it's
Do we have any
not, it's
fire
mixed use
safety
also.
regulations with respect to
Multi-family and single-family, correct?
Loosely, yes.
Okay. And that's where a PUD would take care of that, correct?
Right, yes.
Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, this serves 2 purposes. One is that this will bring the property into compliance by rezoning it and by platting it. It's already existing, so there are a lot of problems with the property. We tried really hard to come up with another solution, and this is the only solution that we could find. So if you approve the PUD, that means that they have to abide by the conditions, so it gives the county a little bit of control over what's there, and, you know, it will limit what they can build out there. So it gives us a little bit of control, and it helps the property owner as well.
Does it set a precedent, so?
No, it's already an existing condition, we're trying to fix it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I don't believe you would need to be wary with respect to setting any precedent, in as much as I would hope this is a very unusual situation.
All right. Any other questions of staff? Anything else from staff? Upon opening the public portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? You state your name and address.
Carrie W. Eldridge, 14131 Mitchell Court.
You have anything to add?
I just inherited all this, and I'm just trying to bring it up to code or bring it up to whatever. I've talked to Chris, and I've talked to Jeff, and we've worked for quite a while on trying to get this right, and that's all I'm trying to do. This stuff's been going on for over 20 years. So we had no issues with nobody or nothing on the lagoon, or the septics or anything else as far as that matters. That's it, really.
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you.
We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there additional information to be presented?
Nothing at this time, Chair.
Okay. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are any comments or questions, commissioners? Right now, we are going to be voting only on the zoning change to a PUD, correct? And then we'll take up the plat afterwards.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve DEV 19037.
I'll second it.
The motion on the floor with the second to approve case number DEV 19-037, application to rezone a parcel of land from RR 2.5 zoning district to a planned unit development. The staff recommendations. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Because the way I see it, if we approve the PUD, we're almost automatically approving the final preliminary and final plat. And Jeff, we used to do PUDs way back when, quite often. And
Correct,
this is the
we
first
stopped doing that because it was used for some other purposes.
Right.
It wasn't-
I don't recall doing one since you've been here with us. So, like the counselor said, I think we better, it's a unique situation. And to me, the key is he inherited this piece of property. And it concerns me when I hear things like the structure is already there, so we're not going to make him tear it down. Well, if I hear that and I want to do what I want to do, I'm going to go build my building and then come back in here and say, whoops, I want a PUD. So
Well, I think that was probably done when we were, all the scrutinization of what was going on, and I think a little bit of the, maybe, of the person who did it probably wasn't doing the proper thing, and, shouldn't have been like that, I'm sure. Probably didn't get the permits that they needed or something. I have no idea what the situation was.
Happened a long time ago.
A long time ago, so hopefully that would not happen again, but.
And I think that's That's why we're here too, right? If somebody did build that, if we found out that somebody built one 2 years ago.
Right.
Yes.
And then they come in and ask for this, I think at that point in time, we would make the decision, hey, you screwed up, you should have checked all this out before.
In this situation, I'm just saying.
Right, and I'm with you, I understand,
That if somebody were to read through, not that anybody does, but if anybody were to read through these minutes or watch and they hear that, I'm like, oh, okay. I know how I
Straight
can
that way around.
skirt the issue.
Right.
Do what I want to do.
No, I understand, yeah, I'm with you.
And since it is mixed use, that is the proper use of a PUD, isn't that correct?
Correct. I mean, you can put regulations on it, we have some control over it.
Right.
Right now, there is nothing, I mean, they can build more stuff on there, and it's hard to enforce because at some point, the county gave building permits to them to build the structures.
Right.
So,
Know how.
And, that's where an error was made. We're trying to fix it, and I give kudos to the applicant for coming in and trying to fix it and do the right thing. And that's why, I'm going to vote for it, but I'm just saying that it's.
Correct.
Well, is the intent to build more properties?
No,
No.
no. And in fact, that's one of the conditions, that there will be no additional residential units allowed.
Okay, any other discussion? I don't have a roll call vote. You have a motion on the floor to approve it. Jay Swin?
Yes.
Jeanette Lamb Holman?
Yes.
Louis Box?
Yes.
Will Schmidt?
Yes.
David Clark?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Chris Ramos?
Yes.
John Matthews?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on May 29, 2019 at 9 a.m. Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, a protest petition must be signed by almost 20% of the land notification area. That was the first part of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve case DEV 19-035 and 036 with all staff recommendations.
Okay, can we go right on to it? We don't need to.
we already did
Okay.
the,
I'll second.
Okay, Jay Swin made the motion to approve, and Wolf made the second. And this is to approve case number DEV 035 and 036, the preliminary and final plats for Eldridge Estates. Skipping a lot of things here. Is there any discussion, any further discussion on this motion? Not have roll call vote. Jay Swin,
Yes.
Jeanette Lamb Holman,
Yes.
Louis Box,
Yes.
Will Schmidt,
Yes.
David Clark,
Yes.
Mark Denny,
Yes.
Chris Ramos,
Yes.
John Matthews.
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners considers item at 9 a.m. on May 29th at the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Both of them are approved. And it is May 29th, sir, so you need to be here at that time.
Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider item 8D, case number DEV 19-017, consideration of an application for a special use permit for a contractor's yard, Angels Excavation, on a tract of land located in the southwest corner of Section 6, Township 11, South Range 21, east of the 6th PM in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by Kelly Angel, also known as 19230 McLeod Road. Staff report?
Good evening, Commissioners. This is case number DEV 19-017, an application for the renewal of a special use permit for Angels Excavating Contractors Yard. This case was presented at last month's commission meeting and the applicant was absent. At the previous renewal of this permit, staff raised concerns and recommended screening on the property. The Planning Commission did not require this at that time, but staff would like to raise this conversation again to the Planning Commission. Overall, staff recommends approval of case number DEV 017, the renewal for the special use permit for Angels Excavating, subject to conditions. The applicant can answer any questions you may have, as can we. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further information from the county counselor?
Not at this time.
Public portion of this hearing is now open. Does the applicant wish to speak? Need you to say your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Kelly Angel. Address is 19228 McLeod Road, Tonganoxie, Kansas 66086.
You heard staff's report. Have you had a chance to go over the conditions?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions? There's
Yeah, I've got a few questions. I guess they want more or less a security fence around there. Is that correct? Something that'll block the view or the vision from the outside to the inside? If that's...
Just to give you a history on that, 5 years ago, when they came to the planning commission, staff had some concerns about the condition of the property, so we recommended a privacy fence surrounding it. But at that time, the planning commission recommended just some kind of a screening, not a privacy fence. So this time, I would like to raise the same concerns, and I'll let the planning commission make a decision on that.
I've got a chain link fence up right now. I don't have a problem, I'll put one up, as long as county shop puts one up, and as long as the court puts one up. They got the same equipment, same materials I got sitting outside, so that's fine. I'll spend 10 grand if they want to spend 80 to 100. Okay?
Staff, have we had any complaints on screening issues at all?
No.
Okay, we'll address that, sir. Is there any other questions or comments you had on the
Yeah, I'd like
factors?
to have at least a 10, not a 15-year instead of a 5. I had a 10 the first time, then they dropped down to a 5 because they said would only allow a 5. When I was in here at the last county commissioner meeting, I think last, and then they gave that cabinet shop a 15. So I'd like to have at least a 10. I haven't had any complaints or any neighbors complaining about my so-called storage area, which I only have one employee. So, and then we do not use Hatchell Road, so I'm trying to figure out why I'm going to get charged a TIF for $883.93. We don't use Hatchell Road. It's also called Suicide Road. You're an idiot if you're going to go up and down it with any heavy equipment. We use K-16 Highway, which is KDOT, and they don't have a problem with me using it, and the Corps uses it. I don't think you guys charge them a TIF, do you?
Well, the TIF is a mathematical formula equation that we use. It's standard on all applicants that come in.
So Leavenworth County Quarry does pay a TIF?
I'm sorry, what?
Leavenworth County Quarry pays a TIF,
Well-
traffic impact fee or road impact fee?
I don't know. I mean,
The county would be exempt.
you'd be paying it.
Why would you be exempt?
I'm not, the county.
Well, why would the county be exempt? They got more traffic, they got more traffic on there.
Well, I mean, it would be
Understood.
taking it from their right pocket and putting it in their left pocket. I mean,
Still, they gotta pay it.
well, that's not for us to decide.
Maybe county commissioners ought to decide then.
Yep, that's what they're there for.
Yep, possibly.
So, any other questions?
No, that'd be good.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? Please, we have them here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Anybody in opposition? Any additional information to be presented?
Nothing at this time.
Well, it looks like we've got a couple things to go over here. Let's talk about the screening first. What's everybody's thoughts on screening of the property?
I've had no complaints.
So
So what was the deal? Last time you guys asked for it and the county commission didn't include it, was that the deal?
Actually, it was the planning commission level that, planning commission decided not to require that.
But you asked for it before, the screening to some degree?
I notice that's not one of the conditions here today, though. And
I believe staff,
I think he literally just said he voiced the same concern, didn't you? Yeah.
yeah, just reading through the minutes from the last time he was in, there was some talk about trees and shrubs, and that was, if we were going to do anything, that's what my recommendation would be, is to throw some trees in there, and it's not going to do anything overnight, but I think where he is, a fence, and, you could put the slats in, but in my opinion, that's more trouble.
well,
and-
that's what they said last time, too.
I mean, just-
They break down in a few years.
Right. The TIF, I don't think there's anything we can do with the TIF. That was one of my questions I had before the gentleman came up on the length of year on these renewals. I know the county commission has changed, and they have discussed that. Do you have any feedback on time length of?
They have allowed some of the special uses to have the 10 years. But staff usually recommends 5 years, and if it's a less impact special use permit, then we usually recommend 10 years. But in this case, it's it's not a less impact, it's a high impact special use permit.
That's
Said
something,
it is a
that's
high-
something the county commissioners can always give them too, you know.
Right. Yeah, and that's how we've done it, but.
Right.
Just from reading through some of the minutes in the county commission, it seemed like, the way I was taking it, was that they were maybe more in favor of giving longer ones on renewal.
Correct, for certain uses.
Okay. But Jay, I agree, I mean, we could always,
Right,
they could always change it.
right.
Be at their discretion. Any other comments or questions from the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mark, I make a motion to approve DEV-19-017 with staff recommendations and a modification to .1, adjusting it to 10 years instead of 5,
And leaving the screening out.
and leaving the screening out.
I'll second that.
I'm trying to look at Steve's little tally sheet there. Thank you. Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor and a second to approve case number DEV 19-017. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain. I'm sorry.
I think we ought to leave it at 5 years and let the county commissioners hash that out. They're going to hash it out at 10 years. I mean, why not be arguing about 15 years?
Me personally, I'm for 5 and let the commission do the 10. They've been doing 10, and, I mean, I'm with you, you see,
I mean, that's just
they're
wrong.
doing 10, but I'm comfortable with 5. But
Dave, it's your motion.
I'll amend back to 5 years.
A quick question before we go any further on that TIF. So if we did do it to 10 years, does that TIF amount double, or does that stay at the 883?
That's what they did last time, they doubled the
It
TIF.
doubles, okay. Just want to clarify that. So Wolf, I think you seconded that, and you?
Yeah, but I'll go for 5.
Okay. Okay, just so everybody understands then, basically the conditions as printed, which is the SUP shall be limited to a period of 5 years, TIF of 883.93, and no mention of the screening. Any other discussion? Have a roll call vote. Jay Schwinn,
Yes.
Jeanette Labby Holdeman,
Yes.
Louis Box.
Yes.
Will Schmidt,
Yes.
Dave Clark,
Yes.
Chris Ramos,
Yes.
John Matthews.
Yes.
Steve is abstaining, and I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0 with one abstention. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on May 29th, 2019 at 9 a.m. right here in this courtroom. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petition must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area in the notification area. So, sir, you need to be here for that.
Thank you.
Want to continue? No, you're good.
Okay. Okay, case number DEV 19-038, consideration of application for a special use permit for agribusiness. Happy Apple Farms on the tract of land located in the southeast quarter of section 17, township 11 south, range 21 east of the 6 p.m., Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by Tricia Ragsdale, also known as 17524 178th Street. This requires a public hearing. Staff report.
This is case number DEV 19038, application for a special use permit for an agribusiness, Happy Apples Farm. The applicant operates a business of a plant nursery at 17524 178th Street, as well as selling a secondary product of alpaca fiber. The vast majority of the plants are grown on-site from collected or purchased seeds, but some plants are purchased from a wholesale nursery and grown into pots. The alpaca fiber comes from a small herd of 7 alpacas kept in pasture on the property. The applicant is the only full-time employee with part-time help from family and 1 additional part-time helper during growing season. Hours are seasonal for people to come to the property to buy plants. Mid-April through early October, the business is open for a half day on Saturdays. The detached garage and greenhouse serve as the retail space for the business during these hours. Signage consists of an old twin-bed headboard with a 1-by-2 foot sign attached to the entrance, near the entrance to the property. On sale days or during farm tours, 12-inch by 18-inch step-in yard signs are placed near the end of the road to help with wayfinding, and all other advertising is online. On the property, there is a 24 by 34 foot barn for the alpacas that was built in 2014, and a 16 by 16 foot greenhouse attached to the detached garage, which was built in 2015. There is a 20 foot by 40 foot hoop house, which was constructed in 2017, which serves a dual purpose of growing vegetables and housing potted plants in the early spring. The applicant is proposing 6 additional shade structures and 1 additional hoop house. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit subject to conditions, and the applicant is present to answer any questions you may have.
With the conditions on.
Yes.
Anything else? Any questions of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give you name and address. Each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing has been recorded. The public comment portion is hearing now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Hi, I'm Patty Ragsdale, and I live at 17524 178th Street in Tonganoxie, 66086.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, I love to grow plants, and it's nice to be able to share them. So when I heard about a special use permit, then I thought, well, I probably ought to check with you guys, find out if you're okay with that.
Okay. Do you see the 10 requirements that are up on the screen there? Have you seen them before and you reviewed them? And do you have any questions on any of them?
I don't have any questions. We talked through most of these in a meeting, and I don't have any questions. This is my husband.
Anybody have any questions of the applicant?
Are you registered with Kansas Agritourism?
I am registered for growing plants
Okay.
as a.
But you are registered as an agritourism?
The only agritourism that I am registered with is for that Caw Valley Farm Tour. that
Okay, but you are registered on this Kansas site, on the tourism site for agritourism?
I don't know, is there a tourism?
There is an agritourism site.
I
Okay.
should do that then.
You should do that. Okay, that was a question I had.
Didn't know there was one.
That's one of the stipulations in approving the agritourism, in the legal case in Johnson County that went through. One of the stipulations was they had to be registered with the State Agritourism Board as a registered agritourism producer, and then it was basically a rubber stamp approval type thing.
Am I agritourism or agribusiness? Is it a
Agribusiness.
agribusiness? Is that different than agritourism?
In a sense, yes. You'll have people coming to the farm occasionally,
I have people come to buy plants.
and that can constitute as an agritourism business.
Okay.
It doesn't cost anything to register as an agritourism business, and
I'm
it's,
happy to register,
That's
so I
fine.
will do that, yes.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicants? Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented? The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Any comments or questions, commissioners, or I will entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve case DEV 19038 with all staff recommendations. You're getting your name in the, trying to get your name in the minutes a lot there, or what?
He wants to be on there.
You got that piece of paper.
So,
The camera doesn't zoom in on
we
you.
have a motion, we have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19-038, special use permit for agribusiness Happy Apple Farms with staff recommendations 1 through 10. Is there any further discussion? I'll have a roll call vote. Jay Swin.
Yes.
Jeanette Lamby-Holman.
Yes.
Louis Box.
Yes.
Wolf Smith.
Yes.
Dave Clark.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Chris Ramos.
Yes.
John Matthews.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on May 29, 2019 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petitions must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area notification area. I imagine they told you already, the Board of County Commissioners will consider this item for final approval on the 29th of May at 9 a.m., same place. All right. Case number DEV 19-43, consideration application special use permit for campground, picnic groves, and fishing lakes, Archer's Lake, on a tract of land located in the northeast quarter of Section 23, Township 9 South, Range 22 East of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by Rick and Georgia Salmons, also known as 24836 Tonganoxie Drive. It does require a public hearing. Staff report.
This is case number DEV 19043, the renewal for a special use permit for Suncatcher Lake RV Park. This property was rezoned as a PUD in 1997 and has obtained and renewed a special use permit multiple times over the years. Suncatcher Lake RV Park has been in operation since 2005 and has obtained and renewed a special use permit with the county. Prior to this, it was known as M&M Lake and was a commercial fishing lake. The applicants manage the campground and there are no employees. They do not provide food or beverage, and the lagoon is permitted through the state and they are compliant with their permit. The submitted site plan shows 36 recreational vehicle camping stalls and 1 shower house. The applicant is proposing 3 additional camping stalls and 1 additional shower house. The additional recreational vehicle camping stalls and shower house will be constructed as demand warrants. I have handed out the Rural Water District's comments for your review. Staff recommends approval of this case subject to conditions, and the applicant is present to answer any questions you may have, as are we.
Okay, any additional information? Any questions of staff report? Upon opening a public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition, will give your name and address. Each time you begin to speak, this is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Does the applicant please come forward?
I'm Georgie Sammons. We live at 24836 Tonganoxie Drive in Leavenworth.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
I think there were 14 requirements there.
We would like to, I don't know if it was said, I didn't hear her say we do want the 10-year.
That's what we're recommending.
It is for 10 years.
Okay.
They're kind of small.
Yeah, sorry.
There's 21 of them, too.
21, yeah, there's 21 requirements. Did you review all of them? Well,
Sorry, I will zoom in.
why don't you give a minute to, we'll give you a minute to review them, so we don't want you to be caught with anything that you.
Probably the same as last time.
These are the same as, yeah. Okay.
There's 21 of them, so
They haven't changed.
it's going to keep going.
No, it's the same.
If I remember correctly, when you came in the last time, there was discussion on the length of stay.
We comply. It's 24 months.
That was the only thing I remember from the last time. Do you have an average length of stay for
The
folks?
average length of stay is about a year. But, I mean, we do have people that stay longer, and we're required, if they stay longer, then they can stay 24 months, but then they have to leave the property for 6 weeks, and then they can return.
And they have to leave the property, they can't just move?
They have to leave the property, and so we have complied with that. We've only had a couple of people that have even fallen into that category.
Have you been in contact with the water district about
Yes.
another meter or something like that, too?
I talked to them, and they said it was, they were just recommending that we get a bigger one.
Sure.
But I told them that when we added the new, we haven't added a second shower house yet, obviously, and I don't think we're probably going to, but it's there in case. We haven't noticed a change in water pressure, and so she asked me a couple of questions, and so they're just recommending it. It's not like it's required.
Right, okay, good.
Any other questions of staff? Applicants, sorry. All right, thank you. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor? We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition. Is there any additional information to be presented?
Nothing at this time, Chair.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners, or I will entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number DEV-19-043 with staff recommendations.
Second?
I looked at you.
Too slow.
I'm making up for them too, Walt.
We have a motion on the floor with for approved case number DEV 19-043, the application for special use permit for campgrounds, picnic groves, and fishing lakes for Starfish Lake. Staff recommendations 1 through 21. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. Jay Swin.
Yes.
Jeanette Lemmy Holman.
Yes.
Louis Box.
Yes.
Will Smith. David Clark.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Chris Ramos.
Yes.
John Matthews.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners considered this item on May 29, 2019 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed in Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, any protest petitions must be signed by at least 20% of the land area notification area. Good luck to you, and what's that? 29th, 9 a.m. Okay, I understand you have some administrative business.
Mr. Chairman, members of this commission, if I might have a few moments of your time.
Sorry to hear you.
Well, I'll talk. I need a few minutes of your time. I was going to address a couple of issues, but I'm going to get right to the main issue of why I'm here. You may have read in the paper, which is the last place you should read your mail, but Board of County Commissioners has undertaken a consideration reconfiguring the Planning Commission. They'd be required to reconfigure the Planning Commission.
David, I need one more.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
If only based upon the fact that with 5 commissioners, the current resolution, which contemplated 3 commissioners, is no longer valid. So they've undertaken to amend the resolution that determines the configuration of the Planning Commission with some, I'll term them, rather significant changes. I will state that the top of the page, it says draft, and that is exactly what this is. It has not been formally adopted by the board. The board is aware that I am here. Their last work session on this issue was yesterday morning. I provided you a copy. The changes are really, or the significant changes there are italicized in the document. Those are the funny looking words. What it really boils down to is this: with 5 commissioners and 9 members, the first thing is they left the membership at 9, which I think your staff and many others were pleased with, rather than expanding the number of planning commissioners. So there's 9 seats. The way that those seats will be filled is 5, each commissioner will be able to nominate a commissioner. And I think you can anticipate that if they nominate an individual, absent some pretty unusual circumstances, that person will be approved by the majority of the board. There are then 4 at-large positions that the board as a body will nominate and approve. And those 4 have to live in Leavenworth. I've changed. They have to be an elector of Leavenworth County. In other words, qualified to vote. Reside in Leavenworth County, and no more than 4 members of this commission can reside in any incorporated city within the county, and that's by state law. The most significant change is this, is that all of your terms, as contemplated right now, are going to expire June 30th. What the board has determined to do, at least as of now, is to effect complete change in the board with all terms beginning July 1, and the appointment, all 9 appointments to be made at that time. The 4 at-large members selected would serve a 2-year term and then begin serving 3-year terms. The 5 district designated planning commissioners would serve a 3-year term and then subsequent 3-year terms. They've also inserted a 3 consecutive term limitation. However, that applies only prospectively. It would not apply to any of you. So quite frankly, that 3-term rule begins July 1, 2019, and your prior term does not, your prior service does not count. I will just share with you the rationale that the board used to justify that is that they would like to see some turnover in the board and believe that this rule would encourage that. Again, that's a policy decision on the part of the board. The other change is currently to have any of you removed for cause. The vote by the Board of County Commissioners has to be unanimous. With a 5-member commission, the board discussed whether unanimity would still be required or some lesser number, and they have arrived that if any of you were to be proposed to be removed for cause, and cause is specified, that it would require not less than 3 votes. Not a majority of a quorum sitting there that day, which could be 2 people, but it would require at least 3 affirmative votes to remove any commissioner for causes provided for in Section 7. That's a real quick thumbnail sketch of what's happening here. I will tell you, in my mind, the most significant aspect of this is that all of your terms expire June 30th, and that you're all subject to reappointment. I believe Mr. Joseph has provided you with applications. I encourage you to submit them. I will just offer this purely gratuitous and editorial comment. I'm very impressed with this board. I always have been, with the level of service you provide to the public, if not individually, certainly as a collective body. I've always thought that this Planning Commission took its work very seriously. You guys do your homework, and ladies, do your homework before the meetings. You all seem prepared, and your answers or your questions are germane and appropriate. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
On the term limit, is that, is it a 3-year term and then you're off? Can you come back on then after a period of time?
You could serve 9 years consecutively, then sit 1 year off, and somehow now you're eligible for reappointment 1 year later for 3.
Right. Do they see a problem though if all of our terms end and begin at the same time? That means that if that many of us are on a 3-year term, if we stay for that, they're going to have a lot of turnover at that end of that 3rd term.
Commissioner Schwinn, and that was discussed, there are means whereby we could have more be staggered. For example, 3 could be appointed for 1-year terms, 3 for 2-year terms, 3 for 3-year terms.
Okay.
The board thought that might cause some churning of the membership of the board, so they elected to do this. I'm not certain what kind of turnover or clamor for appointment that the board anticipates from the public to seek positions on the planning commissions, but again, that's policy. But I would encourage you all to submit applications for the planning commission. I know that your staff would not relish the idea of training 9 new planning commissioners.
Do you want 9 new members July 1st?
One thing you will notice, there is an absence, and it was a matter that I perhaps neglected to get the board to decide, and that is in Section 4, the date for nominations. Consequently, I cannot tell you a certain date certain to where applications would no longer be considered. So I would urge you to get your application in sooner rather than later, for safety's sake only.
Can we just email it back to?
You can email them however you wish to deliver them to Jeff or Crystal.
It's pretty much a questionnaire. Did you look at this?
Yeah.
It's pretty
it's
in-depth, really.
Yeah, it's quite on the second, third page.
You gotta sell yourself a little bit now.
Yeah, sell yourself.
Make sure your name, address, phone number is on there.
So I gather then June is, we proceed as normal, right?
I would suggest that you proceed on course. I did point out that there will be one additional meeting of this body prior to the witching hour, for want of a better term, and that would be your June 12th meeting. That was suggested is to declare this and make it public so that if there was anybody interested in seeking a seat on the Planning Commission, they would at least have the opportunity to attend one meeting to see what they would be getting into.
Are they requesting more applications besides the 9 of us?
I believe they intend to make the applications available to the public at large.
Okay, so it will be published?
Yes. And Commissioners, again, there are certain restrictions, again, in order certainty. One, there are only 9 seats. Secondly, no more than 4 members of this commission can reside within any of the incorporated cities. 5 will be, each district has at least one commissioner, and no district can have more than 2 commissioners. So there is going to be some juggling, because there will just be some new considerations to be considered by the board. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, or I'll try to answer them.
I mean, I figured there was going to be some changes when they got to 5. I think I brought it up quite a while back already. I was wondering about any changes, what they were going to do and how they were going to operate it. That sounds as logical as anything to me. I'm fine for it.
Yeah,
I plan on them
sounds good to me.
staying on. They want me.
I will tell you, I will not be applying.
I think it's interesting how elected officials put term limits on everything but themselves.
Yeah. Do they realize how hard it is to find people?
Well, I think the acid test will be in 9 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, that was brought up during the discussion.
Right.
How hard it is to get people
Get
to
people to
volunteer.
come.
Yeah.
Tough time.
Yeah, it's not a high-paying position and not a lot of glory either, so.
And Commissioners, just so you know, I had visited with your chairman and Mr. Joseph. I was going to give a short reminder on open meetings issues, conflicts of interest, declarations, but that can be done at a later date. I've taken enough of your time this evening.
I'm okay if you want to go.
Yeah, I'm okay.
He wants to leave. He wants to leave.
Think he's done.
Yeah.
I'm back again.
I vote for you.
Okay.
Like a horror movie, it just can't kill me. Mr. Joseph reminded me, there will be a hearing on the 23rd for the master plan. As members of the Planning Commission, you are certainly welcome to attend. I would only urge that you not interact with each other, that you attend as observers, because you sit in a quasi-judicial capacity as members of this commission. And while you're free to come and observe, I would suggest that you refrain from expression of any direct opinions or interact with each other than what the weather is that evening.
Where is that going to be?
Based on library.
Your staff will get you notifications of that, but you, obviously, you can attend that.
Will it be a daytime or nighttime meeting?
It's at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock?
Just as a question and more of an aside, but during the last comprehensive plan, there was, because I was a member of the comprehensive plan committee, I think, and I think a couple of others. So
That's coming, yeah. We'll be sending letters out to.
So this is a different, because it kind of struck me, before, there were some of us that were on that committee.
Correct. There'll be some members, they'll be on the committee itself. There'll be technical committee, there'll be focus groups. So we'll have certain members appointed to that committee. It will be less than 5, because we can't have a quorum with the.
I guess I'm a little confused that if some of us could be on that, why can't we, like you said, discuss more than the weather at this meeting?
Well, I think once you're appointed, that's a different matter. But,
Okay.
and again, it's just a suggestion.
Okay, I was just curious.
Okay. Anything else? We're done. We're ready to adjourn.